Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is United Show. This is Devil's Advocate. It's a Thursday. United aren't playing Europa League yet, so we are here today to preview Manchester United versus Southampton. This will probably be the only Thursday stream we're going to have between now and probably May, so when we win it, obviously. So we will be doing all of our weekly shows every Tuesday, every Friday, and maybe potentially the odd Saturday show as we've done the last couple of weeks. But look, we are here today. We're here to talk all things United. We're going to talk Manchester United versus Southampton at the early kickoff Saturday. We're going to review the Liverpool game. As well as that, we will discuss, obviously, Casemiro, and we'll discuss Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, etc. All the biggest talking points surrounding United today. But I'm going to go around the table, obviously. First of all, before we dive into United topics, first of all, Rach, been a while. Haven't seen you in a while on the channel. It's all positivity and no better place, no better time to bring you back on after being this week.
You find that I only surface when we win. No, I'm joking. No, I've just been really busy with like wedding planning and work and stuff. I got a new job promotion, so yeah, it's been a busy period. So yeah, been really busy, but I'm happy to be back on, especially under good circumstances.
Yeah, it's not often we have good circumstances like talking about wins.
Exactly.
Especially like we didn't win. We had a couple of wins in the last 20 games. So it's kind of refreshing that the win that came up was against Scousers, because I don't think there would have been a show this week if we got a heavy defeat. Well, I wouldn't have been on the show this week if there was a heavy defeat anyway. Mr. Mark Biggs would have to take that on. But anyway, we'll come to that when the next big defeat. But Fred, we were very jubilant on Talk the Devils the other night after the win, all positive, and there wasn't even one negative player rating the other night. We're all in very good humour. How's it been the last few days since we last spoke?
It's been brilliant. Still in shock, really. It's been a long time since we've had a week of just pure elation. So yeah, really good. It's bank holiday this weekend as well. So yeah, really looking forward to it. And congratulations, Rachel, on the promotion as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah, long may the good vibes continue.
Always good vibes.
It looks like there's all good vibes all around the place this week. And I went for my bloods this morning and they told me there's nothing wrong with me. So happy fucking days.
What's amazing. Beat the Scousers. Look what happens.
I'm no longer sick. Rach gets a promotion, and you're in all good stead, and you're all having a good week. Jesus Christ! If only we could beat Liverpool the whole time, the whole world would be okay. But look, we'll crack on. Obviously, Rach, we played Liverpool Monday night, big game Monday Night Football. There was a lot of build up to the game, and I think there was a lot of pessimism around the United fan base. Not only because we lost the first two games, but also there's been protests. There's been a lot, obviously, a big situation with the owners. The club is potentially up for sale. So there's a lot happening going into this game. And the outlook on it was Liverpool were coming to kind of redeem themselves in the first two games. No one really gave United a chance. What were your thoughts, first of all, on the way we started the game? Because we were very aggressive, and it was something we haven't seen, in the last couple of months. Especially, I think the last time we were that aggressive in the game was the first half an hour against Crystal Palace on the Rangnick.
That's what I was literally just about to say. I don't think I've seen us that aggressive for the first half an hour or 15 minutes, I'd say, under Rangnick's term. But it was great to see. It was great to see the passion, the fight. We haven't seen that for so long, that it was really, really good to see. I just hope it continues and it doesn't drop off, because like we saw with the under Rangnick's term, it just dropped off almost instantly, and they couldn't keep it up. But I'm hoping that the current crop of players, we've added a few, got rid of a few, they can, keep up the intensity and really, really have a go at this new system and with this new manager, because, I'm feeling good. Even though we lost the first two games, I'm still feeling very, very good about where we're going at the minute. And obviously the fact that we are potentially up for sale as well. So I do think there's a lot of positives, but I like the style of play that Eric's trying to implement. I just hope it continues.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like he he's very ballsy in the way he approaches football, because I think if you look at the starting lineup, when we seen the midfield three, especially if McTominay, Eriksen, and Bruno, I was thinking against Liverpool team who like to counter. I was thinking if this pays off, Eric has pulled off a masterclass here, but equally, if it didn't pull off, people were just saying what was he doing. But to be fair to Ten Hag, he went to this gut on his team selection, especially like he made a lot of big calls in terms of leaving Ronaldo out, leaving Martial out. Well, obviously both of them came on, but Fred was left out, and he was a very important part of our midfield. Obviously, leaving Maguire and Shaw out, that was, again, big headlines. So I think you're absolutely right. The way he's approaching it, he's doing things his own way. He seems like he's his own man. And looks like Ten Hag, it looks like he wants to do things the right way. Long may that continue. And let's hope, like you said, Rach, that these players now kick on from this and they use this as a stepping stone for more consistency and going forward this season. Fred, I want to come to you on kind of what Rach is kind of on the back of what she said, like in terms of consistency, work rate, desire, commitment. Obviously, Erik Ten Hag before this game made the players run 13 kilometers, because that's the deficiency between us and Brentford in that game 2 weeks ago. It looks like the players have kind of fed off that energy, because Erik Ten Hag ran that with him as well. And looks like the talk in the media is that really brought the players on side. Do you think like having this manager that's, proactive, wanting to make the relationship with the players, but also taking accountability when the things go wrong on the pitch as well, like he's actually, saying to the players, like, look, when we lose, we all lose, rather than like previous managers before would take all the blame and other managers would blame everyone else. I'm not going to name the names of the managers, but you know where I'm going with that in terms of the previous managers we've had. Do you think this approach that Ten Hag is saying, like, it's here for one and one for all kind of approach, do you think that could be something that can be utilised this season in terms of keeping that squad harmony, considering our dressing room has been so fragmented in the last kind of 2 years?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, when that came out, honestly, it sounded like something out of a Hollywood movie. I mean, when have you ever heard a Premier League manager doing the laps with the team? And there was such a hoorah that, okay, the next day the players shouldn't be running because of sports science and whatnot. Sometimes these players have had it their way for so long. It's refreshing seeing a manager actually assert discipline and, assert his authority on the team and just try and promote a culture that slacking is not acceptable. And joining in as well, something as simple as that really, highlights his management skills and just ability to sort of galvanise the squad. I mean, look at the statistics of the Liverpool game, how much more we ran compared to them, and they're one of the fittest teams in the league. We out sprinted them, we outran them, we outplayed them for most of the game. I think he's doing fantastic. The other thing is, any new manager could have gone a bit more conservative after the 2 losses, and he stuck to his guns, and that was very ballsy against a Liverpool team, albeit depleted. You don't know, they could have. I think it shot that they could have turned anyone over still, despite the first 2 games.
Fred, even we say depleted, but 2 of that midfield 3 of Liverpool beat us 5-0 last season.
Exactly.
Most of that team, bar the exceptions of like Thiago, Naby Keita, and Diogo Jota, most of that team played on Monday night. So the narrative that Liverpool are trying to spin that we're depleted. Yes, they've a couple of players missing, but when you look at the majority of the players that played in the 5-0, most of them were there. So it's kudos to Ten Hag there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he and everyone else were near perfect on the evening. So, yeah, I hope we need to continue that momentum. Southampton's going to be a completely different kettle of fish. We're probably going to have a lot more of the possession. They're going to defend a lot deeper. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But we need, we've dropped 6 points, which against teams we probably shouldn't have. So, yeah, we have to recoup that, and let's just hope that it's the beginning of a little bit of a bounce and a bit of a run for some of the players who haven't performed or had that level of performance in 12 to 18 months.
Definitely. I think this is where I think many of us are saying their season starts now. Look, we right off them first 2 games. Not that that level of work rate we're saying it's acceptable. It definitely isn't. I think I want to see this work rate continue now, because there's players out there who like look like they actually wanted to die for the shirt out there. They're like every tackle. Like I think that even the atmosphere in Old Trafford was the best it's been in years. In that Liverpool game Monday night, it was like fans are really up for it. You know, you look at like some Martinez and Malacia, them two, like every challenge. I was watching the game here at home. Every challenge, like I was getting up off my chair at home, clapping and shouting, like felt like I was at Old Trafford because I seen how
right from the off
was.
as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right from the every challenge, celebrating. You've got to do that. I know it was a derby, more or less, and that's what I think Martinez is going to bring to the team as well. A little bit of passion, bit of leadership as well, which is long overdue.
Yeah, and look, that's where I think again the players showed accountability as well, which is something that I really admired on Monday night because it was something that we haven't seen in 12 to 18 months. But again, we want to see this kind of more consistently. Fred mentioned, Rach, that we out-sprinted Liverpool, we outran Liverpool the other night. Marcus Rashford is someone who, look, me and you are Rashford, people can give us shit over it, but where Rashford stands most of the time, we always praise Rashford, we always kind of want Rashford to do well. And sometimes maybe when his performances haven't been great, we haven't held him accountable as much as maybe he should have. But he when you look at the sprints against Liverpool, he was one of the hardest working players on the pitch. And it was probably his best game in a long time. And we seen him really step up to the mark, and we've seen a lot of the Marcus Rashford of old. What do you make of his performance Monday night, considering all the difficulty he's had?
He actually got me excited. That's the most I can say about Rashford, because when you watch Rashford, the past like 12 to 18 months, he gets the ball and I used to just sit there and like, he's going to lose it, or he's going to try and do something fancy, or he's not going to go back to basics and he's just going to lose it and it's going to come of nothing. But that game against Liverpool, I actually got excited because he looked promising. He looked bright. He looked like he was going back to basics, just playing his football and not thinking about, oh, I've got to be flashy here. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. No, just tap into what made you great in the first place and what still makes you great, and just go for it. Plug in your speed, plug in your tenacity, and just hit the roof of the net. And it's just like, that's just what Marcus Rashford does. He just needs to concentrate on himself and playing his football and not letting external pressures and factors get to him, because he's always slated. I think he was one of the 10 most slated football or sports people in the world.
The most, he was number one, weren't he?
Yeah, so that shows you everything. But why? Like, I know football is everything to us, but at the end of the day, he's still a person. It is just a game. Like, we need to think about that. These people do have lives as well. They have extenuating factors that, if I'm having a crappy day and I go into work and my performance isn't great, no one's going to slate me for it. So I think these footballers just need to, concentrate on their own craft and just get their head down and do what they do best. And with Marcus, I hope that this can kind of bring him a bit of confidence, spring him on a little bit and give him that edge that he definitely lost over the last 12 to 18 months.
And obviously, Fred, just on the back of what Rachel said, obviously this, like, in that time when Marcus was pulling up trees for us, he was injured at the time. Like, the back, the shoulder, the ankle, he was carrying a lot of injuries, a lot of knocks that time. When you look now, he's injury free. He has a new manager and like an attention to detail coach, probably something we haven't had since Louis van Gaal, really, in terms of someone who pays attention to detail to more or less everything. Do you think having a manager like Ten Hag can maybe bring out more kind of intelligence in terms of his game, in terms of like when to release the ball, when to make these runs, and obviously like even just I suppose knowing where to be, because there's sometimes he looked especially last season, he looked lost on the pitch. Do you think, like Fred, that Erik Ten Hag can maybe bring back this Marcus Rashford that we all know and love?
100%. I think we've got a real top manager, and he can be a disciplinarian when he wants to, but he's also a manager. He can put an arm around a shoulder and really get the team galvanized. And I think Rashford needs both. I think, as you said, he has been injury ridden the last few years, but he's also had a few what seems to be sort of mental blocks or something off the field issues, as Rachel alluded to, and that's what's impacted his game. And I think this season, having a full preseason, something he's not had in a few years, as well as a new manager, an external manager, not someone who's new to the league, someone who has no agenda effectively, or he's coming in with a fresh pair of eyes. I think that's what he needs. I think hopefully he can flourish now, and that we can't get carried away with one game. But he needs to build on this Rashford now, because he's had 2 really poor years for various reasons, and we know there's a player in there. As a fan base, everyone wants him to perform. He's an academy player. He's a red through and through. I think against Liverpool,
90% of us want them to do well. There is that 10%.
Shocking. First, I mean, you can't really be a fan if you don't want any United player, to fail. I mean, I never understood that anyway. But I think he was lucky. Again, he performed well against a very poor Trent, he seems to have his number most times he plays him, especially at Old Trafford. But I think a huge benefit on Monday was Malacia behind him. Malacia seemed to be, overlapping him, underlapping him. He was stretching the defence. And Ten Hag's got the wide players playing in a way where they're actually running beyond defenders, which recent managers seem to not have employed. So I think Ten Hag's a fantastic sort of role model and manager for him. But equally, there's a lot of work Rashford needs to do on the pitch, and he just needs to put his head down and keep training hard and not overthink. I think Rachel mentioned that he sometimes thinks too much. He's best when he's an instinctive player. First time shot. When he has time, that's what can hinder him, and that's when he scored against Alisson. He had, I think that was a really big turning point for him, because he was against probably the best one-on-one keeper in the world, and he slotted it away perfectly in front of a full Old Trafford. So fingers crossed, the old Rashford is back.
Yeah, hope so. Fingers crossed. And I say what he done when he walked out of Old Trafford Monday night. He probably would have done his media obligations. Took pictures, signed autographs outside the stadium, but then he jumped into his flashy car, went home, took out his wallet, took out his keys, took out his phone, and then he took out Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joe Gomez. He went to bed Monday night. But look, hopefully it's a stepping stone. Hopefully it's a turning point for him. It's something that I really enjoyed. That his goal hit different. I was talking to Shane the other day, because Shane's another person I think we defend Rashford heaven and earth, and like we're really pulling for him this season, because he's someone who obviously epitomizes the club. Look where he came from as a young child, how he had difficulty in his life, and then obviously being a red through and through and coming through, you want him to succeed. And to see kind of his downfall since the Euros last year, it was tough. But look, hopefully this game is a turning point, and if we see the old Rashford, it can only benefit us going forward, obviously, because if Cristiano leaves, we need someone to obviously step up to the mark. And obviously being a red through and through, there's no better way to do it than obviously being that person. So hopefully Rashford can do that. But Rach, we had a man come off the bench Monday night. A man we wrote off in pre-season on this show, Anthony Martial. He came off the bench, impact sub, brought players into the game, and he got a lot of praise. I seen social media on Monday when he came off the bench. A lot of United fans were very happy with his performance off the bench. Obviously, we know his injury problems are always going to exist, but what do you make of Anthony Martial's performance? And do you think, with Ten Hag's current system and his ideology and how he wants to play, do you think Martial can be a key player for him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Martial is a good player, right? He's had his issues at United, of course. We know that. Everyone has had their issues at United, at one point or another. But he's a good player. He's got a lot of talent, and I think he can be utilised. I don't think he is, a 90-minute starter every single week in, week out kind of guy, because of, like you said, his, he does get a lot of injuries. But he can be used, and he can be used very successfully. It all depends on the opponent. Like, he would suit, other opponents rather than, having like Ronaldo up front would suit different opponents. So it's all about game management and going into every game differently. I know you need consistency with a team, but you also need that element of rotation. And that is what everyone's there for. And competition as well. Like, give that competition for Elanga, Rashford, Sancho, give everyone the competition that they need, because complacency is where, like with De Gea at the moment, I feel like De Gea is very complacent because he knows there's no one that's really going to challenge him for that number one spot. So complacency is the worst thing that you can have in a sport, because you've got no one to compete for you. So you're just going through the motions. But I always come back to this when I talk about Martial and Rashford. That 2019 season where they were battling against each other, that was the best we've ever seen of them, because they were both battling with each other to get, to be top goal scorer. And that's what I think Martial thrives off, not being put out of his place, but to have that healthy competition with someone else. So I think he can be a massive part in the team, because what we've seen over the past few years is we don't have that squad depth, especially up front. Like, we don't have a lot of options. So yeah, I think he could be a massive key player.
Yeah, and look, I'll be honest, if people can go back, like, because I got pulled on this on Twitter the other day. Well, not the other day, it was a couple of weeks ago, where I said, do you really want Anthony Martial to replace Ronaldo when you look at like Anthony Martial's injury record? Now, I've been praising Martial since pre-season. Like, he looks like he's new lease of life under Eric Ten Hag. And I agree, Rach, like, if we can see that version of Martial that when he was competing with Rashford, them two have a really good relationship on the pitch. They know each other's game very well. So I think if Martial can stay fit, he's someone who's utilised. I think you hit the nail on the head there as well, Rach, in terms of when you look at like the different types of teams that we're going to be facing. Some teams aren't going to be always like Liverpool, where, they're going to press high, they're going to have a high line. Some weeks the team sits deep, we're going to have to start Ronaldo, so he can be that poacher in the box. Maybe some weeks you have to start maybe Rashford up front to run in the channels, in terms of like we did on Monday night when he occupied that kind of channel between Trent and Joe Gomez. Like, there's different tactical setups, and I think we have the right manager to kind of utilize Martial in that way. But yeah, like, I do agree, he's someone who I think can definitely be utilized this season. However, I still would ideally, I'd like us to buy another striker, because I do think if Martial gets injured, and the situation around Ronaldo is still uncertain at this moment in time. I know there's new reports coming out today, but again, the sources were incredible. That's why I'm not addressing them on the show today. But obviously, Ronaldo's future is still under question, and he's linked with Sporting Lisbon. But again, there was nothing concrete today. But again, look, we will address that when Tier 1 sources do break that. But it is one of these things where, let's say Martial does get injured and Ronaldo leaves the club ultimately, you're kind of left with either Rashford to be up top and Alanga up top. And then if they get injured, you have Charlie McNeil. Like, that's literally where we are in terms of depth for number 9 in this current team. So I think that's where, like, even though, like, I'm not, slandering McNeil in any sense there, but he's still very young at this moment in time.
Ready to have that put on his shoulders.
Yeah. Especially this fan base, he isn't ready yet. And it's one of them where I think we do need someone in. Now, again, I think the way we're linked with Gatko at the moment, I think he could be someone that could be perfect to help come in and challenge for one of them attacking roles. Obviously, Anthony looks imminent. This moment in time, it looks like he may be a player that's going to come in soon. But again, I think up front, we need a proper number 9 to challenge Martial, to challenge Cristiano Ronaldo. Even if Martial stays fit, Ronaldo stays at the club, we still need one more body in there. To really develop, as Rach said, competition, continuity, and freshness in the squad, because we're going to be doing Thursday, Sunday this season, and I'd like to think we're going to be getting far in the Europa League this season, so we're going to need a couple of more bodies in there. But look, that just depends if the Glazers bother to put their hands in their pockets, because we all know how tight them scumbags are. I'm not mincing my words, that's what they are. Luckily, it's my own channel. I can call them what I want, and so I don't think Richard Arnold will be giving me any replies anytime soon. But look, hey ho.
Oh, Richard Arnold's cut him off, I think.
Yeah, the Glazers have cut him off.
I think okay. I think he was going to ask me about Martial anyway.
I'll see if he was.
I agree. I agree with everything that Keane just said. Basically, really. I mean, we started the season, the first match with Eriksen, in the 9. I mean, if that doesn't just highlight what our inefficient depth is up top, then I don't know what does.
Exactly.
But look, Ralph Ragnick mentioned about us needing a new striker in January, and we haven't addressed that, and that's half the issue at the club. I think I always mention recruitment once or twice every stream I'm on, because I just think ultimately that's probably the biggest issue we've had post Ferguson, just poor recruitment. And I mean, the striker, and apart Lukaku aside, we just keep going for mid-30 players, and we need to invest in a young, hungry striker that's going to be there, for the 5 to 10 plus years. It's a real issue, and look, Ronaldo. It's amazing how we've gone from get Pogba out of the club. I wasn't Pogba's biggest fan whatsoever, but one of the reasons a lot of people wanted him to go was because of all the drama that he brought and off the field controversies, and people were talking more about his off the field game than on the field. The same thing's happening with Ronaldo, yet no one's battering an eyelid really. So look, we need strikers. Ronaldo, without his goals last year, I appreciate I don't know where we would have been, but it just shows. If you look at the start of pre-season, how well we were doing, with that dynamic front three of Martial, Sancho, Rashford. And then things really went downhill when Ronaldo came. Whether that's coincidence or not, I don't know. But I think with Ten Hag, he wants players to, that can play a style that he is trying to sort of develop in the squad and personality-wise. And with Ronaldo, I don't think you get that. And with Martial, you do to an extent. He's a lesser player, but he fits the profile better. The type
suits
of
the system a lot more.
we want. Suits the system a lot more. A dynamic front three. But Martial, the only worry about the lack of depth we've got is once Europe starts. Like you said, Martial, I think every year he's out 2-3 months minimum. What are we going to do assuming Ronaldo does go? I totally agree with what you just said. Then you've got Rashford, Elanga. It's just been very weak, and I was hoping we'd be a lot more aggressive in our recruitment this window, and signed a natural centre forward as opposed to a wide attacker. But yeah, unfortunately, the club didn't do that. But hopefully, we can get Anthony over the line, and it gives us an extra body in that position.
Yeah, hopefully he's over the line. And Paul just has a comment in there as well. Any update? And Anthony, last thing I did see from the Athletic on this is that we are putting in a new bid. Our last bid was rejected. Looks like Ajax want up to 100 million euros. The European lad's been drove absolutely insane on Twitter. All the United fans are replying to him. I'd say he just wants this transfer window to end. Yeah, but looks like we're going to put in a new bid. It looks like Ajax want 100 million euros. United are looking to the range of 90 to 94 million in their next bid. So I'd say there'll be a compromise on it. It will be done. Anthony's handed in a transfer request. And one thing I think we know about Ajax is they don't seem to hold players hostage. So hopefully there's a compromise met. But I think Ajax's reputation this summer has been shot in terms of their transfers, because you look at the Martinez situation, they lied to Martinez about a certain fee, and we put the 40 million in. All of a sudden, Ajax got greedy and rejected it. United went in with the 50 million firm. And then obviously, Anthony was told, if we get 60 million, you can go. United bid the 60 million. They rejected it. 70 million rejected. 80 rejected. So Ajax, at the moment where they have all these happy players and players who are happy to play for him. Sorry. I think this summer maybe a turn side in terms of their reputation, because they're lying to a lot of players and a lot of agents. And I think sooner rather than later, you're going to see a lot of unhappy players coming out of Ajax, including maybe Jurriën Timber next summer, hopefully. And hopefully he'll want to leave as well. But yeah, look, European lad, I know you're sound. Look, you seem like a great guy. I'm sorry we're taking all your players, but look, it is what it is.
It is what it is. I think we pissed them off with Van der Beek. I'll be honest with you. They've got a very close-knit sort of culture in that squad, and I think the Van der Beek sort of scenario has not gone down very well. But I appreciate Edwin van der Sar's a big, we've got a good relationship with him, but it's also the inadequacies of our negotiators. I mean, Anthony, if we bid, half of what we're reported to bid now for Anthony a couple of months ago, I think that they would have snapped our arm off for him. I mean, they sold Gravenberch to Bayern for pittance. I just think our strategy has been completely wrong.
Do you think with the Anthony signing, and obviously the Martinez one, do you think the fact they've sold Gravenberch for fuck all, do you think like they're maybe looking at it and thinking maybe we messed up? Because now like they lost one of the best young midfielders in the world for nothing. And that's why they're inflating these prices for United. Not just that, the fact we robbed their manager as well. Do you think maybe Ajax are just very sour with us at the moment?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think the more players you sell, the higher the price would go. So the key is you've got to, sort of first come, first serve. You get a better deal. But equally, I mean, Bayern was supposedly, they've been planning for Gravenberch for over a year. And I think they were, it was sort of March, April that they got that over the line, really. And then it was announced in May. So, yeah, I think just awful strategy our side. Yeah, maybe they realised actually that, I mean, when it comes to United, I think Gary Neville said it as well, especially at the start of the season we've had, you just add a zero on, don't you? Because you know that we're going to be desperate. And the other thing is we're not in Champions League. So in order to attract Champions League players, they know that we're going to have to add an extra zero and pay more or above market fees. But it's our first year really without, what's his name? Matt Judge as well, and he's the one who did all our transfers. So yeah, it's sort of John Murtough's first window, and Dan Fletcher, whoever does the negotiations. But yeah, fee wise, it's not been very good, not very efficient. I think Malacia was very good, but it's sort of been offset. We've forgotten about that now. If we do go ahead with Anthony, God knows. But to be honest, do we care about the money? I really don't. I think Reece. I had a conversation with Reece on the previous show. You've just got to be greedy at this stage, get the bodies in, and then focus on the bigger picture, which is getting rid of these owners.
Yeah, it's less dividends for the Glazers. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Less dividends for them, and fuck them anyway. But look, we'll move on anyway. We'll talk about football, because I don't want to talk about them because I've done enough streams on them. And if I talk about Joel and Avram Glazer anymore, I think I'll have to go back to the doctors over my blood pressure. So we will not talk about them two scumbags anymore. But we'll move on because obviously we've had a great week. Monday Night Football was fantastic. Getting a win over Liverpool, Joe. We all love it, Joe. We've had the bragging rights all week, and we've been strolling around our shoulders up, chests out. But the reality setting in, we are the early kickoff Saturday, and we're the first game of the weekend against Southampton away. Obviously, Ralph Hasenhüttl has been under massive pressure and had a very horrible end to last season and hasn't had the greatest of starts this season. It's been kind of a bumpy road for Southampton. Obviously, look, we've got the win. But that's obviously a manager who's under pressure at the moment. Do you think this is going to be a tough game kind of going into this Saturday?
Yeah, of course. I fucking hate being the first game on a Saturday because it never seems to go well. Never seems to go well. It'll be a completely different, game to the Liverpool game. We've got to approach it differently. I think he will change up the team as well, quite drastically. I don't think people are going to be happy with him changing the team back to, maybe some of the usual suspects, but it's going to be a completely different game. I think this isn't me being like anti-Liverpool, obviously, of course it is, but it's going to be tougher because they're going to have their tails up. They're going to be proper going for it because their backs are against the wall. It'll be a completely different test. One that I think will show us more where we are as to where the Liverpool game, because obviously we always say that anything can happen in a derby because you never, even if we played City, last week and we won, City are always so dominant, but I don't think you'd find me a City fan, like genuinely would feel like they would beat us easily because anything can happen in a derby. There's emotions, there's fire, there's passion. Anything can happen in a derby. It's the same with Liverpool and, games like Arsenal and Leeds and stuff. So I think Southampton will show us a lot more about where we are and where we need to go from here. But I do think he'll change up the team quite drastically. And I don't think people are going to be happy with what he does.
Yeah, I think we'll see we'll cue the social media meltdown at about 11:30 Saturday morning when the
Yeah, literally.
when the lineup get announced. Do you know what? That's usually when I do a runner on Twitter. To be fair, is an hour before kickoff, because I think the meltdowns make me go into meltdown, and I'd like to be there with the phone, like trigger happy, ready to go at these people, and then Amy tells me, "Look, stop," because I'd be getting wound up. But I understand what you mean, Rach. I think this game is a lot different. Southampton, look, to be fair, we have beaten them a couple of times over the last couple of seasons, but apart from the 9-0, right, it hasn't been easy against them home and away in the last couple of years. I know last season we played them, it wasn't easy at all. The season before in lockdown, when Cavani just had an absolute masterclass, like Southampton were playing us off the park, before that. So like it is one of them where anything can happen. I think like set pieces are going to be crucial this week, because James Ward-Prowse, we all know, how he can whip in his free kicks, whip in his corners. That's obviously a big one. Their centre halves as well. They're big, they're strong. There is going to be a lot of different threats that we would have had against Liverpool. And as you said as well, we're going to probably have 70% of the ball on that, rather than Monday night. So like it's going to be different. And hopefully Ten Hag can pick the right team going into this weekend. But Richard brought it up in the comments about Casemiro, Fred. Obviously he's after signing. Looks like he's in training now. He's gonna be training for like 2 or 3 days before the Southampton game. Obviously, he's a massive, big money signing. He's not one of these players who hasn't had a preseason. He's had a preseason with Madrid and also played a couple of games as well. Would you throw Casemiro into the team this week? Considering it is like an away game against Southampton, but it is one that I think if you make that big money signing, do you think that you make the statement and start him, or do you maybe gradually ease him in because he's coming from a different league?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've thought about this long and hard. Personally, I would throw him in. I think with that type of player and the profile of player, you can afford to. Look at his pedigree. I don't think he's going to be unnerved by the league or the team they would play. But I just think there's no lack of alternative in that position, and he offers something that we haven't really got. And against this sort of opposition, like you said, I think we're going to have a lot more of the possession. If you put someone who's that defensively sound in midfield, you could then possibly not feel guilty of playing a Bruno and an Eriksen, because that guy is going to cover them more so than a Fred and McTominay, for example. So. Yeah, I would throw him in. Do I think he's going to do it? Yeah, I do. I think he is going to start him, actually.
I don't think you can doubt him after Monday's midfield.
Yeah, it's the problem is, the midfield, and we're going to. I think the consensus would be that he would take McTominay's spot. I would like to think so, but McTominay had a fantastic game. But the problem is, McTominay he hasn't shown us that he can be consistent and put the type of level of performance they did against 2 different types of opposition. I think the team is largely going to remain the same, but I do think that I can see Casemiro starting with then allowing Bruno and Eriksen to dictate play in those central positions. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Ten Hag, he's not prone to sort of spring a surprise on his team selection. So it'll be interesting, but I think he'll start from the off.
Yeah, I'm interested. I hope he starts from the off as well, because if you look at big money signings we brought from different leagues, I know people don't like him, guys, but I have to bring him up. We brought Pogba from Juventus and we played him against Southampton in his first game, and he actually played quite well, coming from a different league, and he didn't really have much for a pre-season coming back from the Euros as well. Whereas the contrast, this Casemiro has had a pre-season, and actually Real Madrid wanted to keep him, but he wanted a new challenge, so. I'd throw him in there. I think it would be at the expense of McTominay, but look, McTominay, credit where it's due, he did play well Monday night, and it's rare I praise him, but he did. He got himself about, he made tackles, he he released the ball when he needed to, and he done the simple things, and that's all we really want from him. But Rach, do you think with this formation now, obviously at the back, if we have Casemiro there, looks like we finally have that DM, who can kind of cover the back four, but with the set piece threat from Southampton, is this a game where Lisandro Martinez starts? Do you think he starts after his performance against Liverpool, or do you think with a more direct approach that maybe potentially Harry Maguire come back into the team?
I don't know. I think that's what I was kind of alluding to at the start, where I think he's going to pick a different team. I think he will throw Maguire back in, just because of the aerial threat that Southampton do pose. I don't want to keep going on about his height because, like myself, I am 5'2", so I love small things. Small things come in great packages, and it pisses me off when people just go on and on and on about his height. His statistics are brilliant. Okay, you would not even know if people hadn't been making a massive deal out of it. You wouldn't even know he's 5'9". You'd think he was a normal like what centre back size, 6'1". His statistics are fantastic. Okay. I think he can handle it. I think he can. I'm not sure on whether he's going to go with Maguire back in the team or not. I hope he doesn't, because Keane, I'm not the biggest fan of Maguire, but I can see him maybe putting him back in, but maybe for Varane.
Potentially.
So have Maguire and Martinez.
Could potentially happen because he did go with that in the first 2 games of the season. So,
Exactly.
look, it was trial and error, obviously, of course, in the first 2 games. But I see what you mean in terms of against this team where Ward-Prowse is going to be whipping in crosses, that this game would probably suit Maguire more than the Liverpool game would have. I know Ten Hag's talked about on Monday night, obviously in the post-match media, he did say that he's going to have a rotation policy with his defenders, especially with his centre-backs. So, again, like you, Rich, I actually won't be surprised Harry comes back into the team, whether it's at Martinez or Varane's expense. Personally, when you look at the statistics are there, obviously look at the tackles on the ground, all that type of stuff. Martinez has been right up there. Even the aerial duels, he's up there as well. I think Carragher is the main instigator in this agenda. All Jamie Carragher was good for was scoring own goals. Let's get that right. He was a very average defender with no league titles. Let's be honest about this. So it's like people in glass houses can't throw stones. If he's talking about Martinez's height, maybe you should go back and watch his highlights and look at his own goals, because he was an average centre back in a very defensive system as well. If you look at the Rafa Benitez years, he was massively protected by Javier Mascherano, and Xabi Alonso and all these different midfielders. Mm-hmm. If you look at his earlier years when Liverpool were properly shit, Jamie Carragher was absolutely shocking. Just look at all the highlights. Henry running past him, and his own defender Stefan Henshaw running past him.
Oh, he was, yeah. Sami Hyypiä was the star defender in that team. It wasn't Carragher. No one knew. It was only just because he was a Scouser that him and Gerrard got the, that praise. I actually think that Martinez is going to start. I think he's going to stay in the team. I think that the back four is going to remain the same. I know he alluded to the sort of that rotated in the defenders, but I think the defense is one area where you do need consistency and continuity. Yeah. And Martinez, I think if he was going to drop him, it would have been after the Brighton game, after Danny Welbeck's performance against him. I think you just have to play them. You need to play them as much as possible together so they can form that relationship. Not just Martinez and Varane, but Martinez and Malacia. I thought they were fantastic together. So I think the back four is going to stay the same. And if he does play Casemiro, that's going to add, an extra layer of certainty and defensive stability. And hopefully that will, not just the defense, hopefully that will provide a bit of stability to David De Gea as well. So we've just got that solid defensive core.
The thing with Casemiro as well is obviously he's got that link with Varane from Real Madrid, exactly. So they know how they play. Obviously, it's been a while, but they've still got that link that they know how each other play. So
Exactly.
Yeah, I
And
think
if we're going to have a lot more of the ball, I think Martinez, he offers that ball playing ability that side as well. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, but it's going to be a big call because leaving Maguire out 2 games in a row, that's a big statement.
it's a big statement and it'd be the right one. It'd be
I agree.
it would be the right statement. And just going to throw a big conspiracy theory out there. If Fofana does go to Chelsea, Leicester are going to need a centre back. We do have one available, Leicester. In Harry Maguire,
90
cough up.
mil, at least.
What?
90 mil.
90 million just to negotiate, just a starting price.
I
We
want
paid
our fucking money back and interest for all the fucking shit we've been through.
we paid for your training ground, lads. The least you can do is give it back to us. You have your training ground now. You can give us back the money now.
Exactly.
But yeah, look, it's very interesting what Ten Hag might do this week. Especially with not even just like with the defense, the midfield, but I think the front three is going to be interesting because obviously Elanga was exceptional on Monday, absolutely exceptional. But if Southampton are sitting deep, will Elanga be that type of player? I don't think so. I think if the game opens up and they push high, Elanga could be a great player for getting runs in behind and running into them channels. But I think against a team that sits deep, I think I'd feel harsh leaving him up, judging on his performance, but I think we do have to think about the tactical side of it. In terms of the way Southampton will potentially defend, I'd feel Elanga would probably feel hard done by, but again, we have to be ruthless in the way we do pick our teams. But on that note, on the game, we're going to do our starting 11 and score predictions. Again, my favorite part of the show. Rach, I'm going to get you to go first. Now, first of all, do you have 11 or 12 players?
I actually didn't write any down, so you could get 12, you could get 10. I'm not sure, but we'll see how it goes.
So 1 to 11 and your formation.
Okay, so obviously De Gea in goal. So is this what we think will start, or what you want to start?
What you want, whatever you want to do, what you think or what you want, you can go what you want.
I'd like to keep the same back four. Whether I think he will or not is a different story, but I would like definitely in with Freddie's boat. I think consistency in the back four is something that you absolutely need, especially with the two centre backs, because they need to form that partnership. So I would like to see the same back four. I would like to see Casemiro starting with Fred, maybe see how that goes. Bruno in front of them, and then I would like to see Martial, Rashford, and Sancho as a front row.
That's
locking it back to pre-season, hoping for the good vibes that we kind of started off with.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at that lineup, what you do get there is aggression in midfield with Casemiro and Fred, and what also that allows is Bruno not to be dropping back in between the centre halves to get the ball.
Exactly.
I think under Rangnick we've seen that way too many times last season where
Bruno do what he does best and just create chances. He's a playmaker for a reason. Just create the chances and stop whining. Bless him.
Well, I will say it was great to see Bruno have all them Scousers on strings on Monday.
I absolutely love that.
Brilliant. Well, I don't understand why they were getting so pressed. He was right. It was his ball. It was our ball.
He was walking to the centre circle with the ball. Like, what was the big deal?
Yeah, it's a bit shitty. It's a bit shit ass week. And then the little eye poke. But we need that. We haven't had that. Like, when Herrera used to do it, and I used to love it. And the opposition used to hate it. He used to really get in their heads, like the players as well. And it just shows that he's got confidence to do that again.
Yeah,
but we need shithouses.
Absolutely.
What are you about to say there, Rich?
I was just going to say he absolutely rattled them, which is exactly what we needed. They would have got a lot of more confidence from that goal. So fucking rattle them.
Exactly.
Absolutely. If you look at the bastards we have in our team, we've Martinez, he's a shithouse. We've Bruno, he's a shithouse. Casemiro is a proven shithouse. We need more of these shithouse players in our team. We really do. Because think about it for a second. I know people always say the dark arts. We need more of them players who can get that part in their game where look, I'm not condoning cheating or anything like that on the football pitch, but what I am condoning is winding the opposition up and getting in their heads. We need more of them type of players who will do anything to win a game of football, because we haven't had that for quite some time. I think what I really loved with Casemiro actually the other day is when the first person Casemiro went over to was Roy Keane, and when you look at the type of player Roy Keane was, he was the type of midfielder who would do anything necessary to win a game of football. And obviously Casemiro come from Spain, that's what he used to do over there. And I felt like it was almost a passing of the torch moment where Keane was shaking his hand and giving them words of encouragement. That's what it almost felt like at that point in time. And obviously, we're not comparing Casemiro to Roy Keane. I'm not doing that now before anyone takes it out of context and say, how can you compare him and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is it could be a passing of the torch moment in terms of finally we have a midfielder who will just do absolutely anything necessary to win a game. Because since Keane, right, we've had great technical midfielders in there like Carrick and Joe Hargreaves, players like that. We've had brilliant technical players in there. But we haven't had someone like, who would is just absolutely ruthless on the pitch in centre midfield. I think with Casemiro, we could finally have that type of player.
Can I just say as well on that topic, sorry to interject, but just to sort of finish it, the outroar from Tony Cascarino and Talkshite that we're just cheating, whereas if that was any other team, the level of praise that they would get for doing what Bruno did, it was just shocking. And I absolutely love to see it. I love it when the media are blaming us. They're using us. They're treating us differently. That's a sign of good things to come in my eyes. So yeah, I just thought I'd add that in there. It's a disgrace, but B, I quite like it deep down.
Yeah, I quite liked it. I'm not going to lie to you. I was sitting here and I was absolutely loving it because all I was thinking of was my good old Liverpool friends were definitely shouting and roaring at him and calling him everything under the rising sun. And to be fair, I seen a video on Twitter there yesterday where literally everyone who does Liverpool content were calling him every name under the rising sun. But look, it is what it is. But yeah, look, people like Talk Sport, all these other people. Basically, you may as well just rename all your stations ads and call you anyone but United because that's what you are. You're ABUs. And look, I actually hope with Howard Webb coming in now as head of VAR, you all better get your tissues and whatever. It's going to be a long old season for you boys. And United are going to be getting penalties left, right, and centre. And do you know what? If Ronaldo leaves, you're going to have to deal with Bruno penalties 2.0, lads. You're really going to have to deal with that. And look, it is what it is. Man United cheating, we love it. But anyway, we'll move on. So Rach did give her starting 11. She went to the same back five, including the goalkeeper, and she's gone with Bruno, Fred, and Casemiro, and then the fluid front three of Martial, Rashford, and Jadon Sancho. Fred, have you went anything different to what Rach has gone with?
Yeah, one change. So same back five. The only change, and same front three actually. The only change I would make would be Eriksen for Fred. However, I can see the argument for Fred, and I think there's a strong chance of Fred starting in some capacity. But I think Eriksen, he started the first two games. I think with Eriksen, you get a 7.5, 8 out of 10 every game. That's what you're getting with Eriksen, and he's very dependable. And I think his fitness has been something which is just it's been very complimentary. Oh, it's just been fantastic this year. I don't think anyone would think he would have played the amount of minutes he has so far. Condition aside, but given he's had minimal preseason, and he's sort of endured it in all three games he's played so far. So I'd play Eriksen. I'd start Eriksen. But equally, there's a tactical argument for Fred playing. I think Joe Aribo for them is a very, very dangerous player in midfield, very energetic, very strong. If he does start Casemiro, then he's going to have a big sort of job on his hands because they are very energetic. They are very physical in midfield. But equally, I think we're going to have most of the possession. I think Bruno and Fred hopefully will dictate the game with Casemiro behind them.
Yeah, and do you know what? I've went with relation to both your teams. I went to the same back five as Rach as well. On that, I went to the mid. I was playing with the idea of having Casemiro, Bruno, and Eriksen, But I think Fred. I think because it's Casemiro's first game, I'd actually play Fred in beside him, just because again you never know with the league and the fact that look I know he's a world class midfielder, but Fred's a familiar face in midfield. If you start Varane and you start Fred, you already have them relationships that are pre-built, there. And also look, if Ronnie does come on, or let's preempt it, if he starts, that spine, there's relationships there, and it's actually solid. So I would go Casemiro, Fred, Bruno Fernandes, front three. Ronaldo's on the bench again. I think he could be a great option 60 minutes into the game if we're struggling for a goal. Do we switch to a 4-4-2? Do we go with maybe Martial off the left if Rashford is struggling against a low block, and bring on Ronaldo? Because one game, I know we didn't win the game last season, but when we played Ronaldo and Martial against Everton, they did work well. And if you look at Martial's skill set, I think he could help bring Ronaldo into the game more, and help create chances. And his movement could create more chances for Ronaldo. And same with Sancho as well. So I would go Martial, Rashford, Sancho. But again, if we are struggling for a goal, Cristiano Ronaldo, there's no better man to come on and get a goal. And even similarly to that, if the game opens up a bit and it's 0-0, and we obviously with Livermento being out, their best right back is out. Do you stick Anthony Lang on, to get in behind? There's Garnacho on the bench as well, obviously, and he can give us maybe something different. It depends on what Southampton turn up, and depends what Man United turn up. Because if we get the Man United that turned up against Liverpool, that's working hard and running the hard yards and going for every 50-50 ball, and that's fantastic. But if we get the Man United that played against Brentford, where we could be in trouble very quickly, because I dare say Southampton will be aggressive, because they are fighting at the moment to get points from anywhere. They've
had quite a good start. They've had quite a good start. I think Che Adams has had a very good start, hasn't he? I mean, what was their first game? I think they drew to Leeds, and then they beat Leicester last game. So
yeah,
I think they're looking in good nick. And Che Adams is looking very dangerous. So the defense are going to have to be up for it. They're very physical, Southampton. They've changed. I think they used to be a very technical team when Pochettino was there, and Claude Puel, but he's got them a lot more physical. And Ten Hag seems to double down on the technical versus physical. So yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting game. Very different to Liverpool. And as you said, the record's not been 9-0 aside. We struggle against Southampton, actually. I think, from memory, it was Southampton who were the first ones to sort of press against us, and then everyone followed suit, and we weren't able to sort of handle that. But yeah, hopefully we can carry the momentum for Monday and give them a good game.
Yeah, hope so, because if Monday is a false dawn, I can't have Scousers coming back at me for all the shit I've said this week. I simply can't have it. I simply can't have it. We need to stay ahead of them the table for as long as we can. That's all I'll say. But we'll get score predictions, guys. So do get in the comments. Do get your score predictions in, and also do let us know what your lineups are for this weekend as well. But Rachel, come to you first. Are we positive this week? Are we making it 2 wins from 2?
Yeah, absolutely. 3-0.
3-0 United. Any first goal scorers? Any little predictions in that 3-0?
I think Rashford will continue his streak and get 2. And then I think I'm going to go Martial,
Rashford. Oh, they're running the back. They're absolutely running the back. And Richard agrees with your Rach as well. 3-0 United as well. Fred, are you as positive as Rach? Are you looking at a resounding 3-0 win for United, or are you going slightly more dramatic?
I'm positive, but a little bit less positive. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. I think we will concede. I'm a bit worried about Che Adams. He's looking very good. And if we can put a string of good performances, or defence can put a string of good performances together, then I'll be a bit more optimistic. But I think we will concede. I think Che Adams will score first, and then I think Martial will score. And then I'll go for a Bruno winner.
Oh,
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I'll be the most unbearable person on Twitter Saturday all weekend if Bruno Fernandes scores the winner. Trust me. Do you know what? I'm going 2-1 as well. I think it's going to be. I actually think it's going to be a difficult game. I do think as time goes on, we will create chances and we will score. I'm going to go Rashford to score as well. I think he'll score early. Go 1-1, and I'm going to go Raphael Varane to bag the win. I'm going to go Raphael Varane from a set piece. Eric Ramsey FC, here we go. But yeah, I'll go as 2-1. Go Rashford and Varane, and I go because De Gea is in goal. I go James Ward-Prowse from a free kick from about 30 yards. We'll have another clanger. But yeah,
why not Martinez for the goal? You saying he's too short? He can score from a defender as well. Shame on you, Keane.
No, don't be beating me at that Jamie Carragher.
Can you imagine if he did score? Can you imagine the scenes if he scored? When he scores from a corner, it's going to be beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm literally going to... Do you know if that happens, right, just on Fred's prediction there of Martinez goal. If Martinez scores from a corner this week, not only will I get an edit of Martinez scoring the goal, I'm going to clip up every single thing Jamie Carragher said, and also, I'll ask him how Steven Gerrard's doing Aston Villa, because that's what I've been doing all week, getting a reaction off Villa fans. So, yeah, I will also ask Carragher that as well. But all of us are gone for Man United wins. Looks like all the comments have gone for all Man United wins. So that's absolutely fantastic to see. And Richard's prediction is, and start Casemiro. Absolutely. Hopefully, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench, hopefully we do see him play for a meaningful amount of time this week. But look, we will wrap it up there, guys. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you all have a great weekend. And look, let's hope Manchester United win. So do like, share, and subscribe. And we will to have this up on audio platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. So that will be uploaded through our Twitter page as well. But thanks very much, everyone, for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.